Hello, everybody. This is Brian, and we're changing up a little. We're doing a little intro, but don't worry, Peter will be here soon. But in a little pre-recorded segment, well, not a little one. It'll be like an hour and a half. You know how long these are getting now. But right now, I am joined with Adam Katz. Say hello, Adam Katz.
Hello, everybody. I am so pumped to be on this podcast. This has really gotten me through a lot of hard times animating and drawing, so I am pretty excited to talk about a bunch of animations and drawings.
Oh, that's really good to hear. You know, we get those kind of messages all the time, but they still mean a lot.
Oh, I'm sure you really had to shuffle for mine.
Yeah,
you know,
I did.
in your notifications bin.
I did.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Adam, you know, he does a lot of like animation stuff. I'm sure you don't know. We've worked together a while. So
it's really not that important.
Yeah.
You really shouldn't waste time talking about it.
Yeah. So, but like, I think it's reasonable to assume that you have like not just a vested interest, but plenty of know-how in the field of animation. So I think it's really interesting to have you on for the Good Dinosaur, of course. Which,
oh yes, the best dinosaur. But like, what's pretty interesting about this is, even though I'm an animator and you and Peter, I don't think Peter's an animator.
No, he's not.
You both clearly identify not as animators,
no,
right?
I don't think he could even draw a stick figure.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What's funny is I think that you two are much more passionate about Pixar than me, even though I'm the animator. Like, I love Pixar films and have watched every single one, and I've gone to a few midnight releases with you. But for Brave, which is
for Brave, yeah. Adam was there at the. You remember how in the Brave review I say that we went to the midnight screening of Brave. Yeah, not the best, but you know.
Not alone. But honestly, like, I guess I can't even imagine how it'd be worse. But we'll get into that later.
Right.
But like, yeah, I've always loved Pixar, and I really respect them as a company and what they've really done with the animated film genre, since just a genre.
No, it's an art form. Oh, geez, we're gonna have to send Brad Bird. We're gonna send Brad Bird over to you to teach you a good lesson. Animation could be anything. You can tell any sort of story. You should know this.
Yeah,
but
that does really piss me off though. When they're like,
really.
the best animated film genre movie winner is like, shut up.
Yeah, it sucks.
It makes me really mad.
Yeah.
But
well, what's funny about the Good Dinosaur is that I don't think we actually I'm not sure if we touched on this in the podcast that I recorded with Peter that you'll hear, but it's that it wasn't even nominated for Best Animated Feature that year. Of course, it was the same year as Inside Out, which, you know, some would argue is the more deserving entry.
But don't be ridiculous.
Yeah.
Don't be ridiculous.
But like,
come on, man.
Did you have like, were you anticipating the Good Dinosaur? I mean, like, coming off of Inside Out, were you like, oh my god, like we could get two great Pixar movies this year, or were you just kind of like, no, I don't know about this. We'll see.
No. I really wasn't hopeful for this film.
You weren't hopeful.
And
yeah.
You know, coming off of Inside Out, I mean, honestly, I'm not one of those people who's like, well, they made such a great film that the next one clearly isn't going to be good because they put all their manpower into it. Like, I think they have a ton of talent at arguably the greatest animation company to walk the face of the planet right now.
Yeah.
Like, I think that they're capable of making two really good films in a year.
They went Finding Nemo and Incredibles back to back. Like, so,
yeah. Two arguably of their best films.
Exactly. Yeah.
But at least in my opinion. But,
oh, totally. I think in most people's. Sane people, you know.
Yeah. I had a speaker come from Pixar actually to my college, which was super amazing. Thank you so much, whoever came. But
that's really funny because as you'll end up hearing, Peter also they're like, people came to NYU, some animators. I think they were NYU alums actually, to like show off some stuff from the Good Dinosaur. So I wonder if it was the same like kind of presentation model. So like, so what did they talk to you about?
Yeah, I'm assuming it was similar because it had kind of an overall. I think it was like the Good Dinosaur campus tour or whatever it was called.
Okay. Peter didn't talk about that. He talked about that they showed the circle drawing scene, and they showed like Arlo climbing to the top of a mountain and like kind of showing off like the environment. Okay, so it sounds like it was probably the same thing.
Yep. That sounds very similar. But what I was going to say specifically about it.
Yes.
What was the they had a new director on this film, right?
Yes.
Like,
Originally, it was going to be Bob Peterson, but then he was taken off the project and was replaced with Peter Sohn, who you may know as... He's the voice of Emile in Ratatouille and also Squishy in Monsters University. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. That was really what I wanted to touch on because obviously Peter Sohn, right? Getting it right?
Yeah, Sohn. I think it's Sohn, something like that. Yeah. That's the way it's spelled.
Okay.
So
he, this was his really first crack at directing a Pixar film, I'm assuming. I don't know what his previous works are, but the way that this speaker, and I'm sorry to the speaker, whoever you are, like, you did a great job during the presentation, and I'm sorry, I just don't remember your name.
Yeah,
but anyway,
that's all right.
He came in and he really did a really good job at presenting like the way the film looks and their overall goal and what they're trying to present with the message of the film. But the way he was describing Peter's, I guess, what he wanted to accomplish with the film was really terrifying.
Really?
Because he was saying things like, this film is just... He just wants to make it a happy, exploring environment. He really just wants to make you love life. And it was really vague, and I'm just sitting there like, wait, what? And they just kind of kept going on, and the more I was really dissecting it, the more I was just doubting the real intelligence that went behind the film, just because it didn't ever really seem like it had a clear direction. It just seemed like a bunch of nonsense to me. I don't even know how to describe it. I wonder if Peter had a similar experience.
Yeah, he didn't really touch on in terms of what the impression he got of the director was. But it's interesting that you say that because I definitely think that reflects in the film and that it feels a lot less tightly constructed than a lot of Pixar's other work, and it is more meandering, it is more explorative. And I think part of that might come from, I remember I listened to like an NPR interview with Peter Sohn, like when the movie came out. So this was a while ago, but his parents were Korean immigrants. He was born in the Bronx and he was raised in New York City, but I think he had a lot of experiences really cool. When he would like sharing with, I think specifically his mom. They would like go to the movies like animated films, and it for them like it was more about sort of just like the visual information and just kind of like appreciating it on that level. So I guess it's understandable why he would then have this focus on just something that it's more about just like the pleasure, the sort of like primal feeling it gives you, rather than like this like crazy like high concept story, I suppose. So yeah, that seems to then kind of add up as to then why the movie ended up like it did. But that said, it doesn't seem like it changed all that. We'll talk about this later in the discussion with Peter, but it doesn't seem like it actually changed all that much from what the movie originally was going to be. Because when you hear I don't want to speak for anyone else, but when I hear the premise of, the meteor missed the dinosaurs and it's an alternate universe, my brain starts going in all sorts of different directions. And
definitely not what we got with this
definitely
film.
not what we got.
That's not the first thing that pops in my head.
Right, and I think as early as the original director, they still, because based on what they showed at the D23 Expo in 2013, from what I've read, they still had them like farming and stuff. So it doesn't seem like it was that far off. Different cast. Again, we'll talk more about it, but. Yeah, so I don't know. It's hard to tell specifically what he brought to it. That's the thing when you have like the different directorial visions, because of course that's an issue with Brave as well, because then at first you had Brenda Chapman and then is Mark Andrews who was brought in to do the rest. They both accepted the Oscar on behalf of the film. The Oscar it did.
Oh yes.
The Oscar it did not
the Oscar
deserve.
That the film won.
Yes, the Oscar the film won. Yeah. For being the best animated film.
Wasn't it up against Wreck-It Ralph and
Wreck-It Ralph, Paranorman. Yeah.
That makes me so infuriated.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was not.
Oh my God.
That wasn't the right choice.
Wreck-It Ralph was such, and sorry, I don't want to get too disconnected from
it's
The
fine.
Good Dinosaur.
No, yeah.
But Wreck-It Ralph, I was just so excited for the movie.
Yeah.
And seeing it, obviously you get the feeling maybe it won't live up to the hype. It did.
It's a great movie.
By miles. And this film, I'm like, oh my God, so cool. Like the first female protagonist in a Pixar film and a ginger. Oh my God, this is incredible. And I was just so let down. It was very disappointing.
As we said with Brave, it does very much feel like the Brave was a Disney movie and Wreck-It Ralph was a Pixar movie, and they just swapped films.
Oh yeah.
Just
yeah.
totally does. But yeah, so I'm curious as to what you think about this. I won't get too much into my opinion because I'll say that with Peter and debate it with him. But I wonder what you think in terms of, because I'm just I don't want to make any assumptions, but my guess is that this doesn't, The Good Dinosaur in the Pixar canon doesn't rank all that high for you. That's just my guess.
No.
Okay.
So, and I think we talked about this before, but for my top Pixar films, it's really hard for me to pick because there's just so much gold, right?
Yeah.
And the bottom are pretty easy for me to pick. To be
I
honest.
think a lot of people agree on what the bottom is. Like, what would you say?
I don't think the order is in total agreement with everybody, but I think that what the movies are pretty much unanimously decided.
Yeah.
But like, I think that Good Dinosaur is comfortably the third worst Pixar.
Yes. Okay. So
I think it is. I think Cars 2 is second to last, and then Brave is the worst.
Yes.
I think Brave is all.
Okay. That music to my ears.
Which I think most people disagree with.
Yes.
Like, I think most people would say Cars 2 is the worst, but you have to understand, Cars 2 got a chuckle out of me, and it was doomed from the beginning. Like, from conception, this movie was going to be terrible.
Yeah.
Brave had so much potential that it threw out the window, and that's why I give it what it got.
I totally agree, and not a lot of people then have this opinion because I think they're just so afraid to, because Cars 2 is just such a obviously idea that they want to give Brave more credit. But the thing is, Cars 2, I'm more likely to rewatch that movie than I ever will Brave, because Cars 2 is an experience. It's an experience that you have with friends, and you all sit together and you're befuddled by what you just saw. And Brave is also befuddling, but not in as entertaining of a way.
It's not entertaining.
It's not entertaining.
It just makes you frustrated.
Yeah, it's not just that.
Angry.
It's not just that Cars 2 is more entertaining and how befuddling it is. There are some aspects of it that are oddly enough more memorable and more entertaining than with Brave. But yeah, Brave is just just nothing. Yeah. And
it's really just that.
I think I think this will become apparent pretty early on in my discussion with Peter, but I do agree with you that I would put it above Cars 2 and I have the same, not only the same bottom three, but the same list of how I would put them. Just
all
personally.
right, awesome.
Because I think
that settles.
Well,
that.
yeah, exactly. So it's good. I'm glad I had a like-minded individual to agree with me.
There we go
on the show.
What does he think that Brave isn't one of the worst?
No. We have the same. Of course, we have the same bottom three, but Peter then So Peter then, as he'll discuss in the pre-recorded segment, which is way more than the segment. But anyway, as he will discuss, Brave, he feels, is above Cars 2, but not only does he think that the Good Dinosaur is below Brave, he puts it below Cars 2 as well.
No way.
He thinks it's the worst Pixar
Interesting.
movie. And he's very upfront about this. Yeah.
That's super interesting, and in a lot of ways, I see where he's coming from in the sense that it feels the least Pixar-y out of any Pixar film. Even more so, I would say, than Brave or Cars 2.
Why would you say that? Why do you think that?
I think the energy is different. I think it's even less cohesive than Cars 2. I think that it lacks a general direction, and there's really no character that you are really meant to root for. Like, obviously, you're meant to root for Arlo, but, you never really do. Whereas I feel like even with Lightning McQueen in Cars 2, you like the guy.
Oh.
Mater's annoying.
No. But Mater's the protagonist of Cars 2, Adam.
Yeah.
So,
but Arlo, I mean, what's his personality? All I remember is that's all I remember.
Mater's personality is yeah. I mean, pretty much.
Well, Mater has a personality. It's just not a digestible personality. It's can I please turn this off and have some cake to get through the day?
I see. No, yeah, it's interesting to say. I think I can agree, but the reason that I end up saying that Good Dinosaur is better than those two is that I do feel that it is more thematically cohesive and that it's more about something. I understand what all the pieces in the movie don't connect, but some of them do.
Yeah, that's more what I mean. Plot A to plot B.
Exactly. Enough of them do to the point that I understand, okay, this was at least supposed to be a story about fear and letting it overtake you and then obviously then learning to combat that and being able to face your fear and such. And it makes it like we talk about this. We think that this movie, like, it would have been more fitting to call The Good Dinosaur Brave, because Brave doesn't really like touch on like facing your fears nearly as much as Good Dinosaur does. But yeah, Brave doesn't really touch on much of anything at all, other than, you know, you should like poison your mom. And then Cars 2, it's you should be morally terrible in front of other people.
I love that when the brothers are like, well, what's in it for us, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, well, your mom won't be murdered.
Yes. Yeah, it's really...
Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. Good Dinosaur doesn't have anything like that. It has baffling
but I think...
moments.
Yeah, the thing with Good Dinosaur is the whole film is about, like you said, Arlo finally mustering up the courage to face his big fear and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
But the movie never puts him through many obstacles.
Right.
Like, it doesn't really seem like the universe is really challenging him, because I think that's what they were trying to do with the film, is make the environment really intimidating and like kind of like a child would see it growing up and like kind of a hostile environment and whatnot. But it never feels that way to me. It always feels pretty lighthearted and like a pretty nice path for him.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the point? Like that kids are looking at it too harshly? Because that could be a really dangerous message.
If that's what they're trying to say, then I don't know why they would have stuff like horrifying images of like the bug being beheaded, or that one like critter like being devoured alive.
But those are few and far between.
I don't know. It's too tonally.
There aren't
dissonant.
many.
Yeah, I do agree with you that he needs to be challenged more throughout, because once he meets Spot, like, it's not like it's easy for him, but he definitely needs to then face more challenges. It's not. It's certainly not a Finding Nemo where like everything's trying to like kill him. You know. You don't feel that sort of desperation. It's more just like a slog.
Even in the climax of the film, when it's not about him, it's about Spot.
Right.
Like, he's never actually put in danger himself, if I can recall. Like, they take Spot and he's trying to get Spot back, but like it's not like the dinosaurs ever like take him and they're gonna kill him.
I guess that's
do
true.
Anything bad.
No, that's a really good point.
Yeah, he's never put in direct danger.
Yeah. No, it's just designed to force him into a very directly parallel situation to how he lost his father. So it's like he has to then step up to the plate and do this. So yeah, but he is himself removed from the danger because he doesn't have to do anything, which I guess is the point. But that is well.
And they did a brilliant job at making the father as unlikable as possible before murdering him. Honestly. To me, when they had that really weird scene where he's like, "Come on, let's go," I'm like, "What the hell is going on here? Like, who is this?" I just did not like it at all. And then he just really randomly was like, I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm doing." And then he dies. It's like, all right, well, I'm really glad for that that character development. That
well, you know, but don't you miss him? Don't you mourn his loss?
You know. It would be more understandable if there's anything to mourn, but I just feel like I would be crying over a cardboard standee at that point.
Well put.
I'm sorry. That was pretty mean.
Deep cuts. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to discuss in regards to
what's his name? What's the dinosaur? What's the dinosaur
Papa.
Name? That's right, Papa. Yeah. Go Google Papa. I'm sure you'll come up with him like on the first page.
No, but
that's how memorable he is.
Yeah. Well, it's spelled. I think it's Poppa or something. I don't know.
Oh, really? Poopa?
No, Papa. Papa. Papa Henry, I think is his. But yeah, they just call him Papa like the whole time.
Wow, that is awful. I mean, like if I could come out of that film not even knowing his name, I mean, it's terrible.
Well, they had to. I don't know. But what do you call it? Do you call your dad by his first name when you were a kid?
Yeah, I'm like, "Hey, Mark." Yeah, all the time.
Well, all right. I guess you had a very interesting childhood then.
Oh yeah. Very, very dissonant.
So, is there anything else you would like to say about The Good Dinosaur, or like have we covered the sort of the core? The screams of Arlo.
No, that's really the whole film is what it comes down to, is just Arlo making that like screeching noise. And yeah, it's pretty interesting because when they came to my school to just talk to us, they gave us these like phone wallet thingies that you put on the back of your phone that hold like cards. And I had that on the back of my phone for like years.
Yeah.
But every time I would see it, I would just go,
I remember that because then we talked about it. I was like, "Oh, so did you like it?" Because you have like the case and you're like, "Oh no." This is just something I got from a special event. I was like, oh, okay, well, that's kind of weird, but all right.
You got to put your student ID somewhere, you know?
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm not just gonna put it in my pocket. That'd be
and
crazy.
what better place to put it than in a decorative case devoted to the greatest Pixar movie? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll just end with this
Okay.
because I know that we've been talking for a little while.
Yeah.
But like I talked before about the scene from Whiplash, which is one of my favorite films in a long time, where Neiman finally steps up to the plate and tackles Fletcher and just like curses him out, and it's just the most satisfying scene in the world because you finally see this guy like step up to the plate after everything he's gone through and face his big fear. Right?
All the
and
torment,
so
bullied, he was just kind of being, he was accepting it, and then finally it's this cathartic,
Exactly. Yeah. And not only is Arlo never put in a position where he's challenged or berated to get to the point of like the good old triumph, but the moment of triumph is so lame. And at that point, you're just like, why didn't you do this in Act 2? So for me, I never felt fulfilled at all. And when it ended, when he got home and it just weirdly ended there, like the mom's like, you're home. And then he puts his mark on the thing. And I just laughed. I laughed out loud. Yeah. I'm like, they're not going to end it like that. Are you kidding me? That is the most generic, lame way you can end the film. It's like cookie cutter, you know?
Yeah. Well,
it's like the dad's like, you gotta make your mark on him. And then he dies, and then he gets home, and then it's like, you made your mark. And then that's the end. And that's the whole thing.
Oh, God. Yeah, I am inclined to believe that Whiplash is a superior film to The Good Dinosaur. But,
I would say so.
Yeah, no, we talk about the whole make your mark thing and just how, that's like the worst aspect of the whole movie, arguably. Because it feels...
And I do want to say, I know that I'm not being, like, intelligent or, like, critical in a meaningful way. I'm kind of just, like, crapping all over the film.
Oh, that's... Yeah.
But, like, you and Peter are going to do that enough.
Sure.
And I do want to say, I'm saying this as a fan of Pixar. I love their films, and they've created some of my favorite films of all time, and I still, with Inside Out recently, they're clearly capable of making amazing films.
Oh, yeah.
I'm saying this because I love the company. I'm not trying to rag on them in any way. I did not like this movie, and I will happily admit that.
Yeah, and I think it's important to acknowledge that I'm, like, a huge, obviously, because I'm doing this in the first place, huge Pixar fan. But it's like you got to be straight with it. You gotta. Well, if they miss, they miss, and it's important to talk about that because you should learn from those misses. Because even on the individual films, they'll have earlier versions of them, and they'll keep working through it because they say all their movies start out bad, and it's just a journey of getting them to be good. This one, I don't think completed the journey. But it's important to talk about why
it didn't make its mark.
It didn't make its mark. It certainly didn't make it. It really did not make its mark. I don't hear anyone talk about it.
Cars 2 like led some skid marks on the road.
Cars 2 definitely left its mark. It definitely left its mark. And Brave got an Oscar. The Good Dinosaur.
Yeah.
The Good Dinosaur
was like the movie that lost to its own company.
Yes. The Good Dinosaur is neither hated enough to be in the leagues of Cars 2, nor beloved enough-ish to win the Oscar. It's just in that middle ground that it just sort of... But like, I still stand by it is better than those two. But yeah, it is kind of in a really odd position, this film.
Yeah.
That makes it
I think
forgettable.
It's easily the most forgettable film.
Yes. I think that is a very fair thing to say about it. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Well, thanks for coming on and talking about this masterpiece of a film with me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I'm gonna come on and talk about one film, why not talk about the Great?
I'm glad you came on to this one because I
actually attacked Brian like verbally for not inviting me onto the Brave one because that's easily my least favorite, and I was just ready to like rip into it.
I did. We talked about it, but then I forgot. We have a tight schedule with these, and I got so wrapped up in I can't keep track of all the little people, but.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I'm sure. With all the notifications you're getting in your little inbox.
Exactly.
It happens.
Exactly. We have tens of views, and it's hard to keep track of them all. So.
Yeah, dude. Like, trust me. Like, I understand.
No, I mean you don't really. You don't. Yeah. You can only dream of having this audience, but yeah.
I mean, you don't really understand. You're like part of the crew. I don't really know what you're getting.
I don't know. I don't know either.
You're used to seeing the millions in front of your view counts. Like, come on.
Well.
Don't sell yourself short, bro.
I guess you're right. All right. Well, thanks again, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the in-depth discussion between me and Peter. I'll be curious to see who you end up siding with. Do you think it's the worst Pixar movie? Do you think it's not quite the worst Pixar movie? Or do you really like it? If you're out there, please let me know, because I haven't met anyone who does. So, all right.
Yeah, no, it's true. I haven't met anyone who does. Thank you so much for having me on. Guys, enjoy the podcast.
All right. Take care, Adam.
Hey everyone, I'm Peter Mancuso.
And I'm Brian Koch.
And boy, are we here to talk about a good movie. This is the Coco Countdown to Coco Countdown, where what do we do on the Countdown Coco? Well, I'll tell you what we do. We count
Coco
down.
Cabana?
Coco Cabana. What we're doing is we're watching and reviewing every theatrically released Pixar film, as if there's not theatrically released ones. Yeah. In preparation of Pixar's 19th film, The Coco. And we're coming up on it. We're getting really close.
We are getting very, very close.
And today we're talking about Pixar's 16th entry, Sweet 16, garbage movie.
Whoa. All right. Well, should we say the name?
Yeah, we should say The Good Dinosaur. Oh, it's so cute.
I love saying two though.
Okay,
it's so funny. It was really funny with The Incredibles.
This is
It's even funnier this time when we do it the second time.
You're just mumbling and rambling. I didn't even hear half.
I said it was really funny when we did two thes with The Incredibles, and it's even funnier when we do it a second.
This movie doesn't deserve it. So yeah, to start it off, this is the worst Pixar film.
All right, well...
To start it off.
You're wrong.
I'm not wrong.
Peter, listen. I do not want to be in the position of having to defend this film.
Then don't be in the position.
You're forcing my hand. So, this is the first time that Pixar released two films in 1 year, but of course we have to remember that the year before...
This was meant to come out in the fall of... Or just sometime in 2014.
Yeah, and instead, nothing came out in 2014, other than... Planes 2, Fire and Rescue, which was a Disney tune.
I mean, it satiated my needs. When I've not seen Planes, Fire and Rescue. Yeah. Brian, have you seen Planes?
No, I haven't. I still need to watch the Planes films.
Maybe we'll do those.
Yeah, popular by demand. Oh, yeah. But, of course, this is yet another Pixar film in which there was originally a different director, and that would be Bob Peterson, who you may know as... the voice of such characters as Mr. Ray and Doug and Roz, and he's been with the company for a very long time, as you might figure. And
it's interesting because he's voice acted so many. Yeah, I couldn't find the voice of the director in this film because it's just
zingity zing zing zing.
Yeah, I'm going right for it. Going right for the.
So of course this was going to be the untitled Pixar film about dinosaurs or whatever they untitled it. And, it had an entirely different voice cast at one point.
Star-studded.
Star-studded, yeah.
Like in classic Pixar form, like Neil Patrick Harris.
John Lithgow.
John Lithgow.
Yeah. Judy Greer.
Did they ever say
Bill
who the
Hader.
characters were? Like, was it the same characters, just different story, or?
I think it was pretty much the same characters.
Like,
Frances McDormand, I think, was announced for the original cast, and she ended up being in it.
Oh, is she the mother?
Yeah, I think so.
I didn't even notice.
Well, she doesn't really have that many.
Also, Frances McDormand isn't like a particularly recognizable voice.
Yeah.
Either. So that's not a little unfair to me to be like that.
She's Mama Ida or whatever. But the thing is, you might think, okay, this was going to be very different and maybe more engaging with, because the whole premise of this film is, what if the meteor never struck and never caused the dinosaurs to go extinct? And
which is interesting. Is only as interesting as saying that sentence.
Sure.
And there's nothing I think interesting enough. Even in the concept.
Think about you have that sequence, and of course you see this in the teaser trailer, and this
which got me hyped. I was like,
because the dinosaurs, they look really realistic. It looks like Fantasia-esque almost.
The Rite of Spring scene.
Yeah, exactly. And then it misses, and then they just go back to what they were doing, classic, great laugh, played very very subtly because there's no dialogue or anything. You can't even really see their faces. And then it says 65 million years later. And boy, howdy, does your imagination start running wild. Oh my gosh, 65 million years went by? The dinosaurs have made a a civilization or something, right? Some crazy sort of... And then you see they're farming, and you're like, oh, okay. I guess this is what we're doing. And I
in the movie's defense... Actually, I don't want to interrupt you. Continue. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, even though that's like happening, and it seems like it's sort of like this rural community and way of life, I was still thinking when watching the movie that eventually there was going to be some sort of reveal later on about like where they were like some of the humans were being kept, or some sort of like crazy technological thing would just come across, and it would be like natural to their world, but we'd be like, oh my god, I didn't know like this existed in this corner of the world. It just so happens that we were focusing on a farm, but then we find it, but that never happens.
You know. What I was gonna say is
like I was thinking like almost like a Wall-E. Sorry, just to finish.
Yeah, no, sure.
Just like almost a Wall-E-esque twist in the sense that it's like, oh, then here's the axiom with all the humans, except like we really like aren't letting it on at all, and then it just like here's this whole other like sort of like aspect of this world that like really takes advantage of the fact that it's in the future and you know, something. Sorry, go ahead.
No, the thing, to the movie's credit, I think that what you're describing would have been better compared to this, because this movie's garbage. But I think conceptually, I give the movie credit for that, because I think that kind of seems like the obvious thing, like, oh, it's like dinosaurs in suits and ties. I think that would have been the obvious way to take the story. So I give the movie credit for not doing like it's like the thing. But and like
instead, it's just like every other dinosaur animated movie that we've seen.
But it just happens
to have
this
and
one
they have to go back home.
It has a twist that basically bears nothing in it, except for the fact that you can have humans and dinosaurs in the same movie. Yeah. As you know, historically, dinosaurs are wiped out 65 million years ago, and humans don't develop until about a million years ago. So that's the only reason why that twist exists.
But in a lot of media, they just depict them together anyway. So it doesn't even seem like it really strains credibility all that much. But the point that I was going to make was that you might think that they were going to like do something like that originally, and then they changed it and sort of just bared the story down to something very simple. But as far as like I've heard, when they showed footage at like the D23 Expo in like 2013, which was before the director shift, and it was Bob Peterson. Before like it ended up being
people exist out there who have seen footage from the original version.
Yeah, but I think what they described was still like their farming and stuff. So I don't know if it was really that different. So I don't know. Like I'm sure we have like this like utopia in our minds of like a completely different version of this film that then just didn't get off
I'm
the
sure
ground,
it was also
but
bad.
I don't think it doesn't.
I don't think you do such a shift unless what you have is garbage. Like you don't do a shift like very rarely.
But it doesn't even seem like it was that huge of a shift.
No, but my point being is that very rarely is a change like that made where you completely change the director, the script, and the cast, unless what you're working with is terrible. Like not often. We always talk about, oh, I wish we'd seen the original version. Like not often is it where it's like there's some pristine like idyllic version of the film existed, and then like because of like executive
interference.
My thinking
this isn't when a place that would happen anyway.
My thinking with this is it's the same situation as Ratatouille, Cars 2, and Brave. Yeah, where they had major director troubles and they brought someone in. The only instance where it helped to the point where it became not just like salvaged but like actually became something really, really awesome was Ratatouille. Right. That was the first time, and I wonder if they keep doing this hoping that maybe they'll have a Ratatouille situation. Their mistake is not getting someone like iconically amazing like Brad Bird. Like when they had that issue, they brought in the big guns.
But now we live in a world in which Disney cancels Gigantic because it's not working, instead of trying to like creatively overhaul it.
And maybe that's smart.
And maybe like if as we said with Brave, if it's going to be like a problem and you're just trying to salvage something, then maybe you shouldn't do that and just like.
What about saving face?
Something, yeah. Well, also it's about not making a bad movie and putting it in theaters. So
you have to understand for them, and not this isn't a cynical thing for them to do. It is at the end of the day about the bottom line, because that's what keep the lights on.
Sure.
So they're thinking, and same thing with this. They're trying to think, maybe there is hope, because it's been done before, both with us and with Ratatouille, and in other films. Like other films have had,
and even if they anticipated losing money, they wouldn't lose as much as if they just got rid of all of the work that they
exactly. So it's like I think the attempt is to try to salvage it. Yeah. Because then you'll make something.
Because it was so far along, and they had announced it. And,
I think a big thing with this movie is there's two more interesting movies within this movie that are trying to get out.
Okay, what are
one
the two
is what I described to you before as like not Fantasia in the sense of like it's silent and it's set to music, but when I say Fantasia, I mean like that style of animation that's really trying to draw on some kind of realism. Because that teaser, the dinosaurs are animated in a different way. Like their character designs look more like
actual dinosaurs.
Yeah, sure. I mean, as much as we understand about it.
Yeah, no, of course.
But trying to capture a
realistic,
like a
not
Park,
cartoony dinosaurs. Yeah.
Right? So I think one version of this movie is not this story, but just like something having where Pixar really like. You remember I talked about with Brave?
Yeah.
Like somehow like that Miyazaki touch where it's like very in touch with nature and feels very like almost like a painting and trying to like balance like extreme realism and extreme surrealism or abstractism.
And it's about what you project onto it, where as opposed to them really like having like a tightly organized narrative and message that's clear, as you said, like a painting.
Yeah. That's one version of this movie because that's why I saw the trailer and went Pixar's finally gonna take that leap for better or for worse. I think they're gonna finally take that leap where they make like really like something like really like if not high concept, just like really high art. I guess like people like in like the art community would describe it as such.
Risky, laborious,
sure,
potentially alienating the kids. Yeah.
But why is? Well, let's stop for a second. So it is just for children. No, is that what you're saying?
Wait, hold on. What do you mean it is just for children?
No, I'm asking you. You just said it was. You said like doing that would be alienating to children.
I said potentially alienating to kids.
So it wouldn't be a good idea to do something like that.
What about me saying that suggests that it's inherently a bad idea? I'm just saying that's one of the risks that it carries.
Oh, okay.
WALL-E is potentially alienating to kids.
I was just confused. So you do you think it would alienate to do that or no? Like,
not necessarily. Not necessarily. In a cynical studio executive way, I'd be like, oh well, they need to then be like hoppada. They need to be bouncing off the walls and trading pop cultural references. And, but like of course, like it could work and it could be great.
Yeah. So that's one version of this movie.
Yeah.
The other version of this movie, and I said this a million times, more so with cars. We always have to, because animation is within American animation, mainstream American animation, is trying to cast the widest net possible, particularly to children, but something that parents can enjoy as well. Yeah. So there's always has to be some kind of lens through which we're discussing it, right? We're dealing with something like Finding Nemo or Ratatouille, and we're dealing with these like really complex, mature themes. But it always has to be through some kind of lens that kids it'll be more digestible for them, right?
And yes.
And I talk about with cars, like if we want to make a sports movie, we want to just make a sports movie.
Yeah.
With this, why not just make like it's supposed to, the whole thing that they pitched it, because I as NYU student when I was a freshman, they had some animators come.
Yeah.
And show us. This was like a few months, not a few months, like a month before the film came out.
Sure.
And they showed us like clips and kind of described like kind of like the approach to the film. These weren't like anyone super high up the chain. It was just like I think they were NYU alums.
Yeah. Okay.
But they were just like random animators, who like gave this presentation. They were trying to be like, at the end of the day, it really is a story about a boy and his dog.
Right.
Why don't you just make that movie?
But
about kind of like in almost like a Brother Bear vein, and like
sure.
you do it where it's human. Now I don't want to say this would be a good idea, but I think that or what I described before would be better than this because like, why does this have to be? It didn't make any kind of interesting insight about either humanity or dinosaurs.
The thing about your I do still take some sort of an issue with the fact that then you really rebel against them taking these spins, because particularly in this case,
not always. I'm just saying, like,
of course, but like specifically in this case, when you're like, well, because they need to then cast as wide a net as possible, they didn't just make it about a boy and his dog. They could easily make something targeted to kids that's about a boy and his dog. So this isn't like them trying to do it so they could appeal to kids.
Yeah.
This is just them doing it so they could have a unique take on that narrative on paper.
On paper. Maybe because it is a unique, because like it is unique, like doing that kind of story, but like reversing the like not a dog, but like you have like the animal,
the human,
and the human reversing the roles.
Yeah.
And I guess that's interesting, but I find myself going, well, you could do that, or you could just do the like the idea of it, like a human and then his dog, or wolf, or whatever you want, but do it really well.
And I feel like the ultimate concerns of this story aren't so much like a boy and his dog.
It's about like
it's about fear and like conquering that, and being willing to admit that, like, even if you're going to, like have this intense fear, you could still accomplish brave things, and it's not like being
This movie should have
brave
been called Brave.
Yeah, this movie should have been called Brave.
It's more of a connection.
Yeah, it really does. I've thought about that before too, and it's kind of funny that they're talking like so vividly about fear, and then you had fear as a character in the movie that came out earlier the same year with Inside Out. So
Pixar's just so afraid. They gotta get over themselves.
Instead of talking about multiple emotions, they just talk about the one this time.
I wish we could go see it in Arlo's head and see like the controls, but they're all dinosaurs and it's all fear. Yeah,
that'd be funny.
But no,
Bill Hader was originally in the movie.
Yeah, which is it's just this movie is just a complete. Let me talk about why I think this is the worst one.
Okay, you want to? All right, go for
it. The reason why I think it's the worst one, is because basically the conversation is between Cars 2 and Brave in this. Like those are the three that always kind of shift spots.
Those are the three that we're gonna talk about because
they don't deserve to be talked about with any of the other ones.
Yeah,
despite what some people think.
Yeah, I feel it doesn't deserve to be talked about with A Bug's Life or Cars.
Yeah, no. The reason why I would put this below the other two, right? Yeah. So the way I describe, because right now, so for those who don't remember, I say Cars 2 is the worst. And Brave is the second worst.
I said Brave is the worst.
Yeah.
And Cars 2.
For me, I think the way I described it was Brave offends me as a filmmaker, and Cars 2 offends me as like a human being.
Which was a great line. Yeah.
This one does both. This does both on both levels. Yes.
I can see it. So what about this offends you as a human being? Because when you say that about Cars 2, I think it kind of goes without saying.
Because it's like dumb.
Because it's like dumb. So why does this offend you as a human being?
Because maybe offend is a strong word. I'm just trying to draw the parallel to the Cars 2, like but in terms of that perspective, like even as a film person, you know, we talk about like these ideas of like story structure and like is it a rule? Like do you have to always do it? Yeah. And the answer is no. But there's a reason why. Like this kind of like undefinable thing existed within human narratives,
right? And
then someone in the past 100 years like started to identify it.
Yeah.
Right, and there's a reason why. So it's not like we've assigned that to narrative. Right. These ideas of story structure, and even beyond that, I'm just gonna use that as an example.
Yeah.
There's a reason why it works. That's almost unexplainable.
Someone who's never taken a screenwriting class in their life could still like be able to tell if a story feels off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you watch this film, it just like subconsciously. I think people, and I think the numbers are on my side. I think this is like one of the. Isn't this like one of those?
This is the lowest grossing.
It is the lowest.
The lowest, I believe. $332 million.
Not surprising at all. And the reason being is you brought up a great point. Not that the money matters in terms of like comparing their quality, but I think it says something that at the end of the day, even if you think Cars 2 is worse or Brave is worse than this. Clearly, those films were able to connect with some people in some way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Cars 2, like in a more shallow way, like, oh, this is fun. Brave, like even though it's terrible and it's a mess, like there are like I mentioned in the review, like there are some merits, like very little. And I'm talking when I say merits, I mean like this sequence, this shot, like like very small. But
it's just my boy.
There are fans of Brave.
It's just my awful personality.
There are fans of Brave.
Yeah.
There are fans of Cars 2. There are no fans of this movie. Because there's nothing
that I'm aware of. Please sound off in the comments if you are.
I think at most, you get people like you who say, oh, like there's some interesting stuff. I think, no, seriously, I think that's the most positive. I think some people really dug it when it came out. And by dug, I mean like they went, oh, it was really good. Not Pixar's best, but like really good.
And they don't talk about it.
And they don't talk about it because they either forgot about it or saw it again. And here's the thing is I didn't hate it that much when I saw it.
You were just kind of like, eh.
Now, put it into context. Here's a great example. As I described in my Monsters
University. This was both of our first times watching it since the theater.
So I think I talked about with Monsters University that that was like when I would see that was like my first date, right? Yes. So what we would do is we would see as a tradition, we would see all the Pixar films the day they came out. Because we saw Monsters University the day it came out. Yeah. That only lasted for 3 of those films because they had the break in 2014, right? So we saw Inside Out the day it came out. This movie, the day it was coming out, was not a Friday. It was the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I think they were hoping it would be a big Thanksgiving weekend smash. But anyway, so to be fair, it was a Wednesday. We go, me and my girlfriend at the time, literally the only 2 people in the theater.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's
rare.
never happened to me at any movie. Yeah. Any movie. Yeah. We were the only 2 people. Actually, I will give it credit. I think 2 people showed up like right before the movie started.
Okay.
And like I feel like they might have left. Like I don't know. Maybe not. But like it was empty enough where I felt comfortable like actively talking during it and being like, what the like actively like yelling at the screen.
Sure. Yeah.
And which I wouldn't do if there was like actually people there. Like I don't want to I want them to be able to take it if they like it, right? Like I don't try to heckle movies at the theater. So going back to what I say, why it's offensive to a human being is I think it doesn't even work on like if you know about film, like you're not gonna like it, but like it works for the masses. No, it doesn't.
Right.
Critically or commercially, like this is probably their biggest blunder. Cars 2.
Well, not critically, but
no, I'm saying combined. Like if you evaluate both of those, because this isn't it's not rotten, but it's not good. It's in the 70s.
Well, Cars 2 might tip the scales just because the score is so poor, and it also didn't make that much money as a movie. Of course, the merchandise generated a lot of revenue.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So with this film, and I think the reason
relatively
why
speaking, of course,
is we were talking about because after we watched it, like, do you really remember much from this movie?
No.
There's nothing that grabs you or grips you or like makes me think about the film after, other than it's kind of like going into like I think we mentioned this about another one of these movies, but never it's not as true as in this case where it's like we turn it on, it's almost like I enter I black out.
Yeah, and then it's just over. It's about Brave. I don't think it's to the same extent as with Brave, but I definitely see you on that.
Because for me, I just want to get all this out, and then we'll. Okay. In terms of this being the worst one, like this one, and the history, I guess, of the making of it backs me up. I don't think the shift from the original version of Brave to the new version was as like dramatic or as messy as this one. Like this film with Brave, there are bad choices,
right?
But I don't necessarily doubt the fact that these are like talented filmmakers. They're just bad choices. This actually feels like they let like a high school program come in and you had like 10 high school students who were kind of like the directors and like head art what do you call where it's like you're kind of directing like sequences of the film. Like you're not sitting at the computer, but you're kind of like directing them. Like,
whatever.
Like co-director, sure, whatever. Like main creative team. Like they just let a bunch of high school students in who like were like in a creative writing class or like a filmmaking class. Like they might have talent for like their age and their level, but like by no means should be like making feature films. Right. And like that's how bad it is to me. With Brave, it feels like bad choices made by talented filmmakers. Like I can see what you're trying to do, but like it wasn't as successful as you wanted it to be. With this, it just feels like sophomoric, a complete mess, a complete cluster. I won't say it. I know I've just cursed on this show, but I don't know.
Yeah, you definitely have. Yeah.
But it feels like a complete, just utter like hurricane rolled through, and left this in its wake. We can get into more specifics, but that's kind of like the macro explanation, I think.
Okay.
Of why I think it's like with Brave, like again, like there's not much, but like there are some merits. The highest moments in this movie are really not that great. Like the best scene in the movie is like, that's interesting, and then you forget about it.
So, I think like because much of this I feel like will end up being comparing it to Brave. I do because
they're kind of similar because they both kind of like getting close to their nature, more like that Miyazaki thing I was saying. So I think they're apt for comparison.
Well, they also, interestingly enough, they have a similar issue, or not nearly to the degree that it was with Brave, but just in that there's sort of this thing in which it feels like the quote unquote adventure is beginning at this moment, and we've left home. And then we go back home, and then we go back on another adventure. It's not as much of a detour as with Brave, but it does still feel very much like.
Can we talk about
an accurate choice?
Can we talk about 3 scenes of this movie, one after the other? When the father dies, when Arlo's talking to his mother, and then when Arlo goes down the river again.
Yeah.
What a confounding.
Yeah.
It feels like a high school student wrote it, and they didn't understand that you can just combine these.
Because immediately when watching it for the first time in the theater, I was asking myself, once Arlo was back, like swept up in the water, I was like, why didn't you just get rid of the scene when he went back home for like?
It would have added more dramatic because he's like, my family doesn't even know that I'm alive.
Yeah.
Like, it would have added much more dramatic.
Yes.
Like, weight to it, and in
fact, the fact that you see the mom and you see her struggling, and the fact that she really needs Arlo to pull his weight, it just anytime that him and Spot are having fun in the movie, like I feel like it just casts a cloud over it because I'm just thinking about the poor mother trying to work and keep the kids alive.
So that's a good example of what I'm trying to talk about.
Yeah,
where it just feels like a mess, like someone they got a script like showed up in their mailbox written in crayon. And they were like, let's do this movie. It's confounding. That's the word. It's confounding. I'm shocked.
But when it comes to Brave, that actively like is ruining and making very confusing choices with core characters. Arlo's mom doesn't really end up being a core character. This is still a very bad error that the film commits, but I don't think it's nearly as disparaging as it was with Brave, because then it directly interferes with Merida and Eleanor's dynamic and how they should not have directly interacted for a good portion of that. But once she leaves riding off on that horse, she should not, and then Eleanor is too apologetic, and then that just makes Merida look really bad, and then Fergus then doesn't even notice the fact that Merida and Eleanor were gone. Merida leaves twice, he doesn't notice either time. He doesn't notice with Eleanor, even though they're gone for days. It's ridiculous. With this, it's just sort of like, it's for like 2 minutes, I'm very confused, and then we move on, and I'm like, alright, well, they should have gotten rid of that. But
well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
You know what I think a good comparison is? And hear me out and let me explain. Not that you'll disagree with this comparison. I think you'll understand as soon as I say it. But I'll explain for the audience. The comparison between Brave and Good Dinosaur, I think, is similar between the comparison between Rogue One and the prequels.
Ooh.
And here's why. So just to give a little background on Star Wars, me and Brian love Star Wars. Right? Well, at least, like... I think Star Wars for me is, I actually dislike more Star Wars films than I like Star Wars films. But, despite, I guess most people like it, I guess based on Rotten Tomatoes, but
Rogue One? Oh, yeah.
But me and Brian, hate it.
Yeah.
Right? I think I hate it even more than Brian, to the point where I go as far to tell people that I think the prequels, even Attack of the Clones, which is the worst one, is better. I think you can at least concede that Revenge of the Sith is better.
I have conceded Revenge of the Sith better. I've only seen Rogue One once. You've seen it twice. But if I saw it again, I might even be like, it's worse than
people, and I tell people that, even just the Revenge of the Sith part, people go, oh, come on, no, it's not as bad. Here's the thing, is that you're looking at it, and maybe this is more of the filmmaker in me than the audience.
Yeah, sure.
I guess Revenge of the Sith, has, lower lows.
Yeah.
But it has higher highs. Yeah. And the reason being is that...
stronger choices. It's and more memorable choices.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that in Revenge of the Sith, in all the I would go as far as saying all the prequels, compared to Rogue One, is that you have a director who has way too much freedom making really bad creative choices. But he's making choices... And you can sense what he's trying to go for, and you have a sense of his poorly contrived vision. But a vision nonetheless. Whereas with Rogue One, in a similar way to The Dinosaur, actually, plagued with production problems. Even before the extensive reshoots, they would shoot 3 or 4 different versions of scenes. I can't imagine how an actor can have a through line, not even knowing what the
no wonder why Felicity Jones Jr. didn't exactly
right, because their intention was just to assemble all the thing.
Have a well fleshed out character.
That film just feels like nothing. I really don't remember a lot from it. It's bland visually. It's bland in terms of its characters, its plot. Pretty much on every level. There is no, what you call, a directorial vision. There's none of it.
But Darth Vader's at the end, Peter.
So, the reason why I bring that up is, that's kind of how it feels, not to the same degree, because George Lucas is making very strong choices. Yeah. Not good choices, but strong choices. So, it's a little different. Brave, I think I would have said, Brave does not have a lot of strong choices. But in the comparison between that and Good Dinosaur, I remember more of Brave. What little I do remember of Brave, I remember more of Brave. The bear thing is a dumb but strong choice. Sure. It's a big commitment.
But like it just
so the question becomes
it just rolls off its shoulders though. As we discussed, it doesn't feel like
but I'm not saying it's done effectively.
Okay, I know.
What I mean is
I'm just saying it doesn't feel like a strong choice to me. It's like a bold one, I guess, an odd one, but like not necessarily. Interesting you brought this up because I never would have thought of this comparison myself. But you know, I could then make the case for why The Good Dinosaur feels like the prequels and Brave feels like Rogue One. And let me say, because with The Good Dinosaur, it's kind of a similar thing in terms of, because with the prequels, sort of the famous thing, you know, George Lucas would always say with Star Wars, these movies are for children. They're for children. And with the prequels, especially with like Phantom Menace and such, you have some stuff that skews very light. Because the beginning of this movie does skew, and I'm talking about like after we get like the little prologue at the beginning. It does skew very light at first, all the farming and Arlo being like, like running around, do. So it does skew very light, but then there's also some very dark moments. You know, like in the prequel trilogy, I mean, the third one is rated PG-13, for Christ's sake. And yeah,
the first Star Wars film
the first Star Wars and only one, like as of now.
Force Awakens is PG-13.
Oh, it is? Oh,
yeah, they've all been PG-13 since.
Oh, okay, I forgot.
Except for the Clone Wars animated film.
Oh, okay, I forgot. Sorry. But I mean, those don't feel PG. Well, I guess Rogue One kind of does, but Force Awakens doesn't feel PG-13 in the same way Revenge of the Sith.
Maybe because you have a Han Solo get like fucking like stabbed like through the gut.
Well, yeah, but like there's no murdering of children in The Force Awakens. Is what I'm trying to say.
Murdering of hopes and dreams.
Yeah. But so then The Good Dinosaur then has similar things in that there are some really dark aspects that feel very strange. Like you have, this immediately starts when Arlo's father, Papa, as they call him, Papa.
He was born Papa.
He was born.
What if he didn't
Papa.
have children? It would just be weird that his name was Papa.
Yeah, his name's Papa. So, basically, you have this whole thing of him being like, you have to then take care of this critter. You gotta squash it. And like as soon as he has that part when he goes like, this is how you do it. I'm like, oh jeez, okay. And
this movie's very violent.
Arlo contemplates killing it. He even says like, "You're dead, critter." I was like, oh okay. But little did I know I wasn't even starting with the violent stuff. Because then you have when then he like Arlo gets like washed away and his like leg gets all.
It's like, and I don't just mean violent. Like, oh, kids shouldn't see this. It's like the way the violence, or not even violence, just like it's like the pain, like the way like the physical world exists. I guess is the best way I can describe it. Like Arlo gets like beat the fuck up. Like in this movie, and like not in like a cartoony way, like like to the point where he's like scraping and like banging on stuff, like it's
and
like
you
painful
go oof when you see it. Yeah, it's like it's unpleasant.
It like hurts. It's like unpleasant just to watch it.
And the thing, like, and before I go further into that, I'll just sort of then continue off on the sort of
sorry to get sidetracked.
One thing, but like whereas with Brave and Rogue One, both of those are just kind of like. I feel like they're just sort of both underwhelming in that there's never any sort of like commitment either way of like either something very childish happening or something very serious happening. It just sort of like all plays it sort of like here it is, just objectively this is what's happening. There's nothing overtly offensive. It's just sort of like, all right. Well, I mean, I think there is kind of like subtextually, but just in terms of how the film is presenting itself, it's just rolling along. Whereas with The Good Dinosaur, there are moments that make you go, Brave doesn't really have that. The Good Dinosaur will make you go like, what? We were just watching it with our friend Zachary, who hadn't seen it before, and there are several moments that, like when they behead that bug. Or when that cute little critter gets eaten alive by the...
I remember the theory of the bug part put me off. I was like, oh.
The pterodactyls.
But then when the pterodactyls did that, I remember being like, what?
Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
And the thing that I would say is that if this movie was really dealing with fear in a smart way, then sort of what would happen in terms of like these tonal shifts, it could be really smart in that it would establish sort of the lightness, the innocence of childhood, and then abruptly, but from that point on, be consistent after that abrupt transition, shoot this child into the adult world and have all this disturbing stuff. And it could be really effective, but the problem is it doesn't commit to that. Right after the father dies, you have this scene where like Arlo then finds Spot again, and they're playing like this light music, which is by it's not one of the regular composers, but it sort of then just sounds
It's
like
Trent Reznor, right, from Nine Inch Nails.
Reznor from
Who did The Social Network? He did this film, right?
No, it was Michael Donna and Jeff Donna. But
imagine The Social Network music to this movie.
That would be quite funny. But like sometimes it's capturing sort of like the grandeur that I think they're going for. But then there are other times where it's just sort of light and upbeat and royalty-free-ish and generic-ish sounding. But specifically during this scene when then Arlo finds Spot again and Arlo was like, if it wasn't for you, my father would still be alive. It's like played up all light and amusing and it's like, what?
And it's like, I'm gonna get you.
What's going on? I'm gonna get you. Yeah, it's like, huh? Why is this? This is really
It's a really weirdly constructed film, like in terms of what's happening.
And the other big
that scene happened because that scene, like literally, like I'm not even just that scene, but like that literally that moment when the music kicks in, it's all playful, and he's like, "You're the reason." I would bet, I will put money down that that's not more than 80 seconds after the shot of the father dying. I would not be surprised if that's not at most 100 seconds.
Yeah.
Seconds. I'm talking seconds.
Yeah.
It's that quickly. This movie like moves really quickly in some ways and really slowly in other ways.
Well, the other baffling example that's similar in terms of the tonal discrepancy is when you have the scene where they just straight up take hallucinogenic drugs, right? And it's
which could be a cool animated sequence,
but they're in and out way too fast. It doesn't like if you're going for sort of like a pink
montage,
elephants from Dumbo kind of thing, you got to really bask in that and just be like, this is absurd. Whereas this just goes by, it's over as soon as you realize what happened. And they totally steal it in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. With Yondu's and Rocket and Groot then going in the ship really fast.
I can't imagine.
Also,
I can't imagine
very
that
fast.
I can't imagine that they ripped this off specifically.
No, but like that is what it made me think of, and that's like the
when we saw Guardians of the
expressions
Galaxy, I
get all
literally said
crazy.
to you in the
It's
theater,
the good dinosaur.
it's like the good scene of the Good Dinosaur.
Yeah, but like it's so strange in that it immediately goes, and not only does it end that scene so quickly, the very next scene is recreating the sort of the whole thing with the fireflies that the dad showed him, and it's supposed to be like this enchanting moment, and then that leads us into the circle drawing scene, which is the best scene of the movie.
And when they came to talk to us at NYU, they showed us like a few scenes.
Yeah.
Like 2 or 3, and that was the first. I think that was like the big one that they showed us. Yeah. And everyone like kind of lost their mind. They're like, "Oh my god, this is like so." If like the movie is like this, and like, it's gonna be really good and really sophisticated. That scene like feels like it was from like a different movie. Like the way like it's paced and written and acted and animated. Like literally every element feels like it was made like by a different group of people.
Because it is very smart in how they communicate, and I think I will bring Brave back into this. With the comment I'm about to make, and the fact that, of course, you have another situation in which there's a speaking character dealing with a character that isn't speaking, like with Brave, right? And we talked about how that's a problem. But in this scene, you clearly then are able to establish, and they even kind of allude to the fact that Arlo thinks at first, oh, you don't understand, when he draws the circle and has the parents and his brother and his sister. But then Spot draws his own circle and has where his parents. And then knocks down where they stood, and then like sort of then buries them in the
incredibly sophisticated,
incredibly sophisticated, like done with very minimal dialogue and really touching. Shows the connection between the two of them, even though there was that sort of language barrier, quote unquote, really expertly handled. And you know, I will, while I think that is definitely the standout scene, inarguably, there are some other moments where the movie doesn't use dialogue, and I can admire that. Like the times when they find that human that's in the far distance, and it's that extreme wide shot, which, as you said, that could have been really cool. It's not as cool as...
There's a lot of parts of this movie where I go, that could have been really cool if, like, the movie was, like, knew like, what it was.
Even though, like, Arlo is kind of, like... unjustly possessive in that moment, it's still kind of like is an interesting thing and not really done with dialogue. And of course when then Spot officially then joins the Croods,
there's nothing strong enough,
which is what they are. They're the Croods. It's done without dialogue, and it's the whole resolution of Spot being like, no, you stay with them. And I'm glad that it's not like his actual parents. It's not. It's like just other humans. They didn't just bring them back to life. So that's good.
Yeah.
You know,
there's
some subtle work being done.
Yeah. You know what the problem is that like there's not enough strong. There's like not a strong. Like Arlo is one of like the worst characters ever. No, seriously.
Yeah.
Because like, what does he want?
He wants to get back home.
But like, there should be something else as well.
But
to not be a pussy. Like
he wants to earn his mark.
That's one of the stupidest like
the mark sucks.
Familial pressure thing. Like I hate movies where it's like especially not real like when movies are actually tackling familial pressure like in an actual like mature way. Sure, but usually anime films do like egregious like where it's like or like kids movies, animated or not, where it's like but this is your dream. No, that's your dream. Or like like this might be one of the worst like arbitrary
the whole section at the beginning when it's like dealing with this making of
all the sister did was
I feel like that's
like
the
plant
worst
corn
section.
All the sister did was plant corn. She got to put her
cleared a field and that's it. And like
Marlo has to literally go on an odyssey and it's like
Buck clears a field. Libby did some just random thing on the like just like pushing her head along, making the trail, whatever. I'm not a farmer. I don't know.
I'm all over the place. Yeah. What I do like, I just remember something I liked. And I thought I may as well say it now.
All right, say it, and then I'm gonna get more into the Mark stuff because I have a lot to say.
No, I can continue about the Mark stuff then.
Oh, okay.
I won't forget this. I just I thought it would be a good opportunity. Like, there's such little I like that I should try to get.
Okay, so hold on to that for a second. But yeah, the whole then concept of making the Mark. That's what really makes the movie feel very kiddish at the beginning because it's such like low hanging fruit in terms of a goal. We don't understand why we should really care, and it seems like they're able to get it for such menial tasks. And like if Arlo could just do something, anything, he would then get his. But of course, then he has to go on this huge movie-spanning adventure, and then ultimately gets it. And it doesn't feel satisfying at all once then he does. And you're gonna roll your eyes and go, oh. But specifically in terms of this idea of a child making their mark or earning their mark or whatever, it does directly bring to mind, and this will make sense once I explain it. It directly brings to mind something that's a thing in My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. And let me explain. So for anyone who's not familiar, there's this whole then notion of the ponies got to get their cutie marks, right? And their cutie marks are then what resembles their talent, like in life, what they're meant to do, so to speak. So like when you earn your mark in that case, that is literally like your life's work. That is something that actually means something, and that is something that characters set out to do, and it's like a metaphor for growing up and discovering yourself, and they do stuff as the series goes on about like, oh well then what if then you earn your mark and then you get stuck with something that you don't actually want to do for the rest of your life and you want to do something else, it'll pigeonhole you into doing that one thing. Or like if maybe you get your wrong mark, or like your friends get it at a different time than you, dealing with all this sort of stuff that you can mind. This is literally just, well, I did a thing on the farm, let me put my footprint on the thing, and that's it. There's nothing else to it. Sure, the siblings get theirs before, but it's really like, that's not a source of anxiety for Arlo. The source of anxiety is the fact that he is like the runt of the litter. That he's like this tiny, that he is like this tiny little dinosaur, and
See, because dinosaurs are usually so big. It's interesting to see a small dinosaur.
There's enough already in terms of him, like he's born so small and he's so afraid of everything.
In that giant egg.
In that giant egg, which is like a funny visual. But we don't need this artificial construct of the mark to get across what needs to be gotten across for the story. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't add anything.
Brian,
it's just annoying.
Brian, it's something a high school student would do. Thinking that the audience would get...
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
One thing I did like...
Say what it was.
Briefly. It's more of a notion that the film presents.
A notion, sure.
I like the idea of when Arlo fails at killing the Spot the first time, and the father gets frustrated, and he's like, we're gonna do this right now. And then Arlo like hurts himself and realizes, and like the father kind of like snaps out of it. He realizes. Sure. He says like, I just wanted you to do it. I wanted you to just get over your fear. Like that's really interesting. That's a really
I
interesting.
wrote that down too.
That's a really interesting notion. Now, granted, it's he dies 20 seconds later, and that's not an exaggeration.
Yeah, sure.
It is an interesting notion that kind of makes me wish the movie had been about that. People would have cried wolf and been like, oh, you're just like doing like. Not Finding Nemo necessarily, but like this idea of like a father-son relationship, like, oh, don't do that movie again. You're aping Finding Nemo.
No, yeah, totally.
But that would have been a more interesting film. kind of exploring their dynamic and like parents like. You know, you have a kid. Like, you know, because you know what it's really about? If you do that, you know what it's really about?
What?
Toxic masculinity.
Sure. No, absolutely.
And dealing with, you know, like being a parent and like your son, maybe like your child, like is like a little, like is like a scaredy cat, so to speak.
Yeah.
And wanting him to, you know.
And you're trying to then push them, but you maybe push them too hard, and it's sort of then trying to figure out there's no right answer. Is it for you
or is it for them?
There's no right answer. It's not easy to then sort of figure that out, but like, of course, we can't dive any deeper into that because the dad just dies.
And again, with no exaggeration, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
At most, 45 seconds. If you were to pull it, I will put money on it. If someone finds it and it's not that, I will send you Venmo you money on the over the internet.
And they set up this whole idea, and this is going to take me into like sort of an alternative idea of like themes they could have explored given this whole idea of the dad. And like after I do that, then you could talk about your sort of idea that we just randomly stumbled into by like making a joke that like could have actually been good. But first, I'll say what I was going to say. So then he says the Papa says this thing early on like you're me and more. And
out of
nowhere, it doesn't have any relevance, whatever.
Rings hollow, yeah.
Yeah, but then later he has his ghost dad, right? Ghost dad. And, like, he then is walking, then down, and, Arlo's trying to follow him, and it is a cool visual touch when he sees that, like, he's not leaving any, like, marks in the ground. Like, that's then kind of cool.
Yes.
Again, something not with dialogue. But then, the movie then... Instead of taking this opportunity to show that Arlo and his father have sort of then different ways of looking at the world and maybe different values, ultimately, which is true to what the father was actually like, the movie chooses to have Arlo come up to him and the dad and talk about how he needs to save Spot and stuff, and the dad's like, I knew you had it in you. You're me and more. Now go take care of that critter. The last that we heard you saying, take care of that critter, that meant kill that critter. Kill the human, squash him to protect our livelihood. So where did the dad... And they really... I know they had him say you're me and more earlier, but they really didn't set up this idea of him yearning for his son to maybe be better than him or anything. What it should have been is the dad is literally then walking down this path and the son, like, has to then veer from it. And has to then defy him and be like, no,
Dad, it's your dream.
Well, not saying that.
No, I just,
like with no dialogue, just being like, I can't. You're going down a path I can't follow for another little prequel reference. Yeah, but like, yeah, just this whole idea of my father saw it differently, but you know what? We could learn stuff from these humans and sort of then integrate maybe, and then when he came back home, integrate some of then the lessons that he learned from Spot. And showing that there's, like, he has a new lot on life and he has something new to bring to the table. And there's going to be an evolution. But this is just, like, it's just idealizing the father.
It needs to be about him and the father. That's what this movie needs to be about.
It's idealizing the father, and that's not what the movie should be doing. Because it should give that, like, it's robbing Arlo of a chance to have something to call his own, to have his own arc, to have his own realization about the world. And can you say the thing that you randomly joked into existence?
Well, yeah, I'll explain the joke, but I don't even know. I mean, maybe lead me on in terms of like what you want me to like, actually kind of.
Well, just say what you were.
Where we were.
What led me into.
I was a big joke because this, like I said, this film has like these 3 scenes.
Yeah.
It's like the trifecta of garbageness. Where the father dies, and then immediately the next scene is like the mother struggling to get the stuff, and Arlo having like, oh, I'm gonna catch this critter, I'm gonna kill my father. And then the third scene, him like also getting lost in the river. Mm-hmm. I said as a joke because it's just like such a weird cut.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have been funny if she's doing all this stuff and then some other dinosaur's helping her and it's like the stepdad. Like, it's like she's moved on to some other dinosaur.
Which then just made me realize, wait a minute. So then, if this was about the father then died and then Arlo has to get used to having a new dad, that would have been something that, like, we haven't seen necessarily before in, like, a family movie. Like, actually, like, showing the dad... Of course, we should have then spent more time with the dad and getting to know him, showing the relationship. But then potentially having to move on and then have a new parental figure in your life.
Yeah.
That would have differentiated it from The Lion King, which
is the major
this
comparison.
movie really... There are several things. I was making a list. throughout.
And it's almost it's like egregious, it's undisputably aping direct stuff from the Lion
So you
King.
have a scene with the father and the son at night in which they're running around in sort of this field, and it's
similar
the Firefly
similar
scene.
field.
And it literally, I was saying Dad, we're pals, right? Right. And we'll always be together, right? And then you have the whole thing of then. The dad dies, of course, which is a Lion King. Obviously, I won't dwell on that any more than I need to. But you have
his death.
Yeah.
Is it's also in some kind of canyon-ish thing.
Yeah.
The sun looking on and being from the high ground.
Yeah.
The
The high ground. Another people reference.
From a safe space, almost egregiously so. It looks very. It almost looks like if they did a 3D render of the Lion King scene.
And you have
changed the lighting and added rain. It looks exactly the same.
And you have the Velociraptors, who are Senzi, Banzai, and Ed, the hyenas. And you even have Arlo fall into these thorns at one point, and the Velociraptors / hyenas don't go after him.
Yeah.
And when...
wow. Yeah.
And then when the child returns home, the mother thinks it's the father at first. Mufasa? And then she thinks it's Papa.
Now see, that's a movie that is very much about his relationship to his father.
Yeah.
Even though the father dies. Because I think in this scenario, based off of what I'm working with here, that the father needs to not die.
Right.
They need to be developing this relationship. But that movie is able to do it.
Because it probably takes twice as much time having the father still be alive, I would say.
Yeah.
Or at least it certainly feels like it. Because there's the whole, section of the movie.
It seems like the wrong
Simba.
plot is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's if you're gonna do something through some lens, if you're gonna make a movie about dinosaurs and it's gonna be something that has nothing to do with the fact that they're dinosaurs, I'm good here. You know what it is? Mm-hmm. The quirky lens thing.
Yeah.
Is I'm cool with it, not just cool with it, but I dig it.
Yeah.
But when it actually matters, what it is, it matters that they're toys.
Right,
it matters that they're monsters.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that they're cars, and it doesn't matter that they're dinosaurs. I think that's what I'm trying to say. If you're just gonna have a coat of paint,
but it doesn't matter that you got changed to a bear either. Too, I'll throw that in there. But yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying.
The bear thing isn't a lens. That's just a weird fantasy element.
I know, but that one I'm kind of
So I'm trying to throw in brave jabs.
I'm trying to stretch that to make it work, but you would agree that it doesn't serve the story.
No.
I know it's not a lens that encapsulates the whole film, but actually it kind of is.
I get that. My point being is that if you're gonna just have this weird kind of lens for us to view the story, but the lens it's this coat of paint, but it doesn't matter if it's red, blue, or yellow. Just do the story. Just do the thing you're doing. It doesn't have it doesn't have to be transformative in that sense. You don't have to recontextualize it. Just make a story about a father and this thing. If you want to put a lens, just make it more integral to what it is. I still don't understand what's the point about this them being dinosaurs. If you could have done this with them as being bears. You could have done this as them being humans. You could have done this as you see my point?
Yeah, of course.
There's nothing about this that necessitates it being about dinosaurs.
And, as much as I could applaud the fact that they did go for something different and that, at times, just to make sure we have said this, it does feel like a Western, I guess, in the sense that you have, this long journey and ponderous, and so more through the visuals than anything. There are some strong...
The music feels very,
the music,
frontier.
At times, when it's going for that. Sometimes it's just going for the royalty-free joy.
In the beginning, it feels very, with the...
Yeah.
It sounds like not so much a Western, but, in the scenes with Westerns when it's just the normal folk.
There's some really cool stuff. There's really cool stuff when it goes to the frame is entirely out of focus and it slowly shifts in, and you see the bokeh as you'd call them just sort of slowly disappear, and then it comes in focus.
What is that? Is that the?
That's the little circles.
Oh, and were you looking at lights out of focus? Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know that there was a name for it. Okay.
Yeah. But if
you're on New York Street and you do it, you get it with cars in the street. Okay.
Yeah, it's very, very pretty, and just sort of. It's not just in terms of visuals, but they sometimes let you have the time to just sort of let these visuals sink in, and that's really nice. But what I was gonna say was, as much as I could appreciate that and how sort of the ponderous nature of it is then something different. a lot of the time, this movie will do things that do feel like other Pixar movies. Not as good, but it will sort of then go back to the standard Pixarian path. And it'll be better for it. Because, like, otherwise then you just have Arlo roaming around being like, I'm gonna get you, which gets very tiring of him falling and screaming. And I prefer scenes in which, like, you have the pet collector, which then, like, it's kind of a funny thing. And, like, the whole thing with the, you know, like, this one keeps me from having unrealistic goals, and this one's Debbie, and then it doesn't explain anything about it. Like, funny stuff. But, like, that's, like, a sort of, like, Finding Nemo-y kind of idea in the sense that here's this character that they encounter that then progresses the character relationships, because that's what results in Arlo naming Spot, and it, like, moves their relationship forward. So it's, like, this quirky character who comes in and has their purpose. Of course, like, is used very briefly, is not as memorable, but, like, that's
it feels like it's just like a bastardization of like a Finding Nemo thing. Because the thing with the Finding Nemo, like because we've talked about with Finding Nemo, feels like a little episodic, but like not necessarily in a bad way. Like you're going through and you're doing these little things, and it's kind of like helping push our characters like arc forward. Like the swordfish don't necessarily not the swordfish, the John Ratzenberg fish.
Oh, the impressive.
They don't add. They kind of
fish.
exist. They kind of don't. They kind of just exist for a gag, which is fine.
But like no, but they still then they cheer up Dory, and then they sort of like, you know, like Marlon was going to send her off at that moment. So there's a purpose to them.
Yeah. So I can't prove myself. I can't prove my point even more.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you. I agree with you.
So
for
like,
sure.
So there is there for you in this situation. Like the pet collector in this film exists to be like an attempt at some like weird, quirky, like iconic. Like, remember the scene with the pet collector?
Yeah.
Which it just falls.
But it's nothing more than that, because it's very short. But
again,
we're
talking like 2.5 minutes.
Yeah. The stuff with some of the stuff with the T-Rexes is kind of while then we've mentioned them, I'll mention the whole notion that they like gallop and they're modeled after horses.
That's what the guy said when they came, that they were modeled. They didn't want them to run like T-Rexes from like Jurassic Park. It's more like as if they're riding horseback. So like their upper body is being very what would be the word, centered or whatever. But like it's like that galloping motion with their feet and lower body.
Interesting idea,
because they're meant to be cowboys.
Yeah. And of course you have Sam Elliott, which I mean occasionally.
Why is this his Pixar role?
You're going to be playing a dinosaur, Sam Elliott. Oh, good. I'm breaking free from my stereotype. So who am I going to play? You know, Sam Elliott.
But as a dinosaur. I mean, it kind of looks like Sam Elliott at like times.
What's that one line that he says about like, you better not be pulling my leg?
I'm gonna eat yours.
I'll eat yours. I'm just imagining him being like, yes, Mr. Sam Elliott. Can you give us one more of that? Okay. You better not be pulling my leg. But some of that stuff is occasionally that makes for an awkward walk cycle, and I don't really like the way that they're designed, because they look proportionally weird. Like Sam Elliott,
they're really chubby.
Sam Elliott dinosaur looks like a big thumb. He just looks like a thumb.
Oh, they all look
like a walking thumb. And like you know, of course, then people have talked about how then like Arlo looks at it because he's cartoony. So like I won't belabor that point.
Like a lizard.
But yeah, but
there was just someone there just really. You want to know what it was? The character designer for Arlo was really mad they weren't doing Newt anymore. And he was like, by hook or by crook, I'm getting my lizard on screen.
They did have a lizard at one point in the movie.
It looks great. And then you see his fucking cartoon like chubby foot walk by. I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah, but like I kind of like the campfire scene. That's kind of like all right, in that like you have them.
Sometimes it's horrifying, and then you're like, am I supposed to laugh at this or?
Yeah, no, but like when they're talking about all like these crazy things that they've done, and it's sort of again like it's very Lion King in the sense that it's this whole idea. Oh, being brave doesn't mean you go looking for trouble, and like I was terrified. Like Mufasa admits it, and then Simba is like shocked. Like Arlo is similarly like, oh wait, you weren't like you're so brave. Like you were scared. And it's like yeah, no, this is still.
And they try to shoehorn this some weird
fear. Yeah,
so they shoehorn this weird weird thematic notion of like if you're not afraid, you're not alive. So does that mean? So really, the movie should be about him learning to like. It's okay to be afraid, but the movie seems to posit like no, he finally learns to not be afraid.
No,
but the movie then says, with Sam Elliott, like no, it's like good to be afraid because like that means like you're human.
Oh God, are we gonna be talking about the inherent goodness of fear? I can't do this again, Peter. I can't do this again.
We've already
no
been talking
more.
for like an hour.
We have? I guess we had more to say about it than we thought. But, like, yeah, no, that whole thing. But the thing I would say about that is even, and I mean, I don't think it's really then talking about the inherent whatever. All it's saying is that, yeah, like, don't, like, deitize us. Well, not deitize us, but don't, like, look at us as such that, oh, we're so brave and, like, we're not afraid of anything. No, we do have fear, but we have to then conquer that fear. I think that's just sort of basically what it's trying to say. Which, in addition to the fact that this movie does have scenes in which, like, Spot is actively, like, teaching Arlo stuff and, like, helping him, like, survive better, like, have, like, these techniques. And, like, this then movie is then letting Arlo then also then learn these sort of then lessons about fear then occasionally. It's doing more than Brave in terms of having a progression, because Brave really has no progression at all in terms of the relationship between Merida and Eleanor. He teaches her how to fish. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. There's nothing
The
else.
music is better in Brave.
Great. That has nothing to do with what I'm saying, though.
Oh, no, I know. I'm just trying to now find comparisons.
Sure. But, like, with Brave, it really, there is
the reason
no
why, because
progression
the music in the fish scene I like.
Yeah.
When they're trying to get the fish.
But, like, there is no progression to that relationship whatsoever. Here, I could kind of see, like, again, it needs to be fleshed out more, but I could sort of then see, all right, so then Arlo then, he needs to then get over his fear, and, like, yes, it's very obvious in terms of the parallel at the end that, like, oh, he has to then save Spot, and the water's coming, and, like, oh, does it look familiar? Oh, this looks familiar. I like Scar, and when we pause it. Yeah, but, it's still, even though it's, like, obvious, there is an arc that goes through motions, whereas with Brave, it's just sort of like, well, it's supposed to be them, like, getting through their differences and learning something from each other, but there's just nothing in the way of the steps along the journey. So I can appreciate that campfire scene.
Let me ask you this. You know, we're not at rankings yet. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I think it's clear to say that I'm putting this at the bottom. So, spoiler alert.
Okay.
And you're gonna put this one above Brave, but still under Cars 2, or are you guys put it above Cars 2?
I mean, I won't say yet.
Okay. Well, what I was gonna say is, you know,
Leave some drama.
because you making good points about why this is better than Brave,
Yes.
and that I agree with. But at the same time, I still hold to my points. I think I still. About the reasons why the Brave is better than this.
Because it has higher highs?
No. I'm just saying, like, this is everything I've said so far about why it's better or worse.
Okay.
So I would even concede that, like, we're not allowed to do this for this ranking. I'm saying it right now. But I would almost say, like, in a perfect world, like, I would say that they're tied. Like, they do some things better than the other, but, like, they're both kind of bad. Like, if we were trying to, like, quantify the qualitative and give everything a score.
But you have Cars 2 below Brave. And you're thinking so wouldn't that put The Good Dinosaur above?
I kind of forget about Cars 2. Like, I'm kind of like Cars 2 just exists in its own, like.
But so
sphere.
is it below or not? Really, is that the choice that makes sense for you?
No, I'm not saying I'm just saying that they're kind of. I don't know. I really wasn't considering Cars 2 when we said that, because I kind of forgot that Pixar made Cars 2 when we were talking about this.
They did.
But I can see your points about why this is better than Brave.
Yeah.
I just think overall.
I do really like the image of the sort of the reverse Jaws encircling
That's
the
super
pterodactyls. Cool. That is awesome. I'd love to see the concept art for that. But if this movie had more stuff like that, oh my god, because that's wonderful. That's such I would buy a painting of that. That's so good.
It was. Oh jeez. Oh, calm down.
Yeah.
Dude, don't blow your money on a good dinosaur painting.
I'm just saying, it's a really creative image. And those are the sort of surreal...
Because it plays into the fact that they're dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Wouldn't you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. This movie's valuable property. No, it's not.
It's not valuable property.
Yeah.
They really set themselves up for failure by naming it with the word good in it.
Yeah.
All the memes it's the bad dinosaur.
It's the average at best dinosaur.
What did I say? Oh. During the movie, in terms of, like, its length.
Yes.
Like, it feels super long and super short at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I was thinking in my head, I didn't say this out loud when we were watching it, because I wanted to save it for this, so I get your reaction.
Okay.
Is that the movie doesn't feel long, it just feels wrong. You know what I mean? Sure. Like, it just feels like all the wrong choices. Like, everything that's happening is just, like, the wrong choice. Like, again, these high school students, like, I'm, like, their teacher, and I have to tell them, well, you know, this is interesting, but, like, maybe, like, keep workshopping and then come back. Like, this seems like a rough draft of a movie.
Yeah.
In all respects.
I mean, it does, but, you know, it has stronger atmosphere and more of an arc than Brave. So, I can give it that, right?
Yeah, I mean, that says a lot.
It's
better than Brave.
That is a lot. Better than Brave. Arlo's braver than Merida.
Yeah. Well, how would you
Arlo does more brave things than Merida.
Yeah. No,
ultimately.
This movie is more about bravery than Brave is. Yeah. Let me ask you a question. I don't want/need an in-depth comparison because I'm tired, and this movie doesn't deserve too much from us. Yeah. But like, who do you think's a better character, Merida or Arlo?
Oh God.
They're both terrible, but like one, I think Merida edges out Arlo because Merida at least like I said had interesting character design, interesting good voice acting. This kid.
I think Raymond Ochoa, however you pronounce his name.
You know his name?
I'm looking at it.
Oh, okay. You looked at it. Okay.
Yeah. I think he does a perfectly good job. It's just he's asked far too many times to scream, and he's like often written very whiny and you know pathetic. It's not his fault. Not at all. I think he does good with the material he's given, but geez, that's a difficult conversation because I think while Arlo is very annoying, Merida is despicable. She poisons her mother willingly, and even while her mother is like falling to her knees, potentially near death, she is still only concerned with herself. And she ends up getting everything she wanted, and that character makes me root for the antiquated notion of arranged marriage, just because it would teach her a lesson, even though it's the wrong lesson for her to learn, and that's like a horrible construct, and no, you know what? It's just the fact that the mother's not even trying to say, oh, this is the way it should be, just this is the way it has to be, otherwise we're going to war. You know what? Learn responsibility. You know what? Eleanor is totally like. In control of the family, like yes, she's married. She went through the whole arranged marriage thing. She's still she does whatever she wants. Just get over it. Get over it. It's a figurehead husband. Just still do whatever you want. Just get over it. Okay. Whereas with Spot, like with Arlo, you know, but by the end of it, like yeah, he was annoying and he screamed too much and that was bad. But he learned to conquer his fear and he let Spot be with humans, and he returned to his and he made his mark.
Oh, he made his mark.
Isn't that nice?
Oh man, he made his mark.
Hey, yours is higher than mine. No, it's just the end.
Shut up, bitch! Like wax her.
Oh, I knew I'd regret marrying a mathematician. She knows the angles. Get a protractor out.
But
oh dear.
Yeah, why don't we? Is there anything else we want to talk about? Because I don't know if they're really, and that's the thing about this movie is I was actually quite hyped. Like I was
hyped.
I was hyped. I was excited.
You weren't.
I swear to God, it crossed my heart.
No.
I was excited. I was very excited.
I don't buy it.
Why would I say I was excited about The Good Dinosaur?
That's a good point.
It's embarrassing. Like, what do I have to gain from saying that?
That's a good point. No, I will also say that
because in concept it's interesting, just like a Pixar movie about dinosaurs.
Since you mentioned your theatrical experience when I went, and I surely this has something to do with the fact that it was released Thanksgiving, but for the longest time, like even though I would still see every Pixar movie with my parents, I would then go with my friends and then see. So I would see each one twice in the theater. This I just saw with my parents. I didn't go for a second time, and I didn't see it a second time at all until tonight. So. That does say something about it, but you know, it just sort of it is how they made it. It exists. It kind of feels like it's from an alternate reality.
It just feels weird
when I think about it. It's like an odd.
It's not
dream.
bad. It's just weird. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. Like there are movies that are worse. Like there are DreamWorks movies that are like worse than this.
Yeah.
But like something about this, like the closest I can get to is describing it like it's like a mess and like high school. Mm-hmm. Like something about it just feels. Because
it would be one thing if it wasn't very good, but then you have stuff like we should like we mentioned very briefly, but like when they like eat that critter alive and they like rip that bug's head off and they have the hallucination and like their heads are on each other's bodies, it's like What in the world? What?
What in the world
What
is
did
going
they
on?
do? I feel like
This is really weird.
To quote Francisco Bernoulli, what is happening?
Who?
The car from Cars 2, remember? When
Yeah.
when Holly Sheffield flies
Yeah.
past him?
The fact you know all these names is concerning.
I'm
It's
sorry.
concerning.
I'm sorry.
Francisco, what was his name?
Bernoulli.
Bernoulli.
The memorable character.
Yeah, okay. Oh, God. I guess a comparison,
Chick
sure.
kicks, but Italian.
Oh, gosh. This
yeah.
movie just makes me sad. So it offends me as both a filmmaker and a human being. Because it's just bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
Not even just what's in it, just like the way it's being presented. Like, it doesn't feel like it was made by Pixar.
Mm-hmm.
And it just feels like some weird, like, from an alternate reality, and there was some kind of like point of singularity, and this like
You know
this
what's funny?
DVD,
Because The Good Dinosaur, it purports to be an alternate reality.
No, it seems like it came from some alternate reality, like some kind of vortex opened, and this was what came from the other side. And you're watching, and you're like, this just doesn't seem to obey any laws of actual filmmaking.
And so there is something to be said in that a dino civilization could have been like really just like an obvious choice to go with.
It still would have been better than this movie.
But like it could have, I mean, like that's just it on paper. You know, you could have then done really interesting things about like
paper's not a movie.
Can you imagine like Brad Bird like talking about like the societal struggle between dinosaurs and humans, or like just thinking about like the imagination runs wild at the potential.
Yeah.
Wild. You could have this be like an allegory for slavery. It could be about slavery. You could do so many things with this. And then you did this.
And then you made this.
And then you made this movie. Which, you know what? Yeah. So if it offends you as a filmmaker, I can get that. Offends me as a human being, I wouldn't go so far as that. I think it more just confounds me as a human being.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah. I wouldn't say it offends me the way Cars 2 offends me. Mm-hmm. Like, here's what I'm going to say. And you were here when we watched both of them. Like, we were doing this together. Cars 2, like, was making me angry. But this movie, I actively, like, just was like, I'm not even going to watch. Like, I was just doing other things. Like, I was just cooking.
Yeah.
Like, I just stopped watching it at a certain point. Like, I just started, like, doing other things while we were watching
it. Was nothing new. Yeah.
It was just nothing.
It was extinct.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas Cars 2 was just making me angry, but it was a strong emotion. Mm-hmm. Whereas this movie, I was just watching it like, huh? Yeah. What? Why don't we get to rankings?
Yeah, here's your
Is this
rankings.
mine?
Yep.
Okay. So let's see. Where am I gonna put it? Okay.
Oh boy.
From worst to best. Maybe we should do best to worst. So you can So you can maybe the movie surprise.
Surprise.
Okay, from best to worst.
The Good Dinosaur.
No.
Okay.
The Incredibles, Ratatouille, Monsters Inc. Monsters Inc. is higher than I thought it was. For some reason, I thought Monsters Inc. was 4th on my list. For some reason, it's been a while since we recorded the last one, so it's been a while.
Because we wanted to watch it with our friend Zachary, and Zachary wanted to watch it with us because he hadn't seen it before, and we were like, "Oh boy, get ready."
But anyway, so from best to worst, The Incredibles, Ratatouille, Monsters Inc., Toy Story 2, Monsters University, Finding Nemo, Toy Story 3, WALL-E, Inside Out, Up, Cars, A Bug's Life, Brave, Cars 2,
wow,
The Good Dinosaur.
Wow.
I can totally see your merits, and I think all 3 of those Bond films are so bad that I really wouldn't be offended if in a year I might think different, I might interchange them, but just my gut feeling right now is that like I would rather, again, at the end of the day,
given how apathetic you were about it, like that makes sense.
Yeah, at the end of the day, if this ranking comes down to like just my preference of watching it, I would rather watch Cars 2 or Brave over this. This was hard to get through.
That makes sense. Yeah. I can understand that. Okay, so I'll pull
Glad
up
you
mine.
understand.
And this is it's tricky. It's tricky. Because with there are several ways.
Better than Inside Out? Do you think 4th?
Oh boy.
The two of the best Pixar films came out the same year.
Yeah, 2 of the best.
One of the best followed by one of the worst. Isn't that weird?
It is weird. It's very weird.
We saw that with Toy Story 3 and Cars 2, so they're no stranger to lifting you up just to drop you.
I guess that's true. They did go straight from what I deem to be the best to what I deem to be the worst. So with Toy Story 3 and Cars 2. But yeah, I'll go from top to bottom as well. The Good Dinosaur. With Toy Story 3, Toy Story 2, Toy Story, Inside Out, The Incredibles, Finding Nemo, Up, WALL-E, Ratatouille, Monsters University, Monsters Inc., Cars, A Bug's Life, The Good Dinosaur, Cars 2, Brave. And, like, I want to hit, like, return after A Bug's Life. And have The Good Dinosaur, Cars 2, and Brave.
A huge gap between them.
Like it's like no man's land.
Because they are kind of in a different category.
They're, like, in, like, a ditch. But I will... Because A Bug's Life really... Like as much as then we could say about how, like, oh, like... They're like, you say there's nothing remarkable about it. It's totally functional in how it operates. Yeah. And there's a lot of... They're likable... I just want to say this because this is an opportunity to be, like, glowing about A Bug's Life, basically.
Yeah.
Because it's like...
Which we don't often get a chance to do.
You don't often get a chance to do. So, like, but, like, the characters are then very likable and, you know...
Good performances.
It's good performances and... It's very pretty to look at, and you could admire how much, like, they were able to grow since Toy Story in terms of just the sense of scale and such. And, you know, there's some really interesting ideas that then they thread through about, you know, coming together as a group and then being, like, you know, not the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, but the strength of the many outweigh the strength of the few, I guess.
That was beautiful.
That was beautiful. So... A Bug's Life is, like, has some really good stuff. And then The Good Dinosaur is The Good Dinosaur. And it's better than Cars 2, because Cars 2 is Cars 2. And Cars 2 has, like, you know... Cars 2 is really... It's hard to get through, like, a good chunk of it. It drags and drags and drags. And it has some really, like, you know... problematic moral, whereas this one is just like it could have been a better moral. Cars 2 is like a problematic moral, and Brave is like a problematic moral too. But like Cars 2 is, and Mater's like annoying, and you know there's some just really it doesn't work as a sequel to Cars, and it doesn't work on its own merit. And like even all that said, I will grant the fact that Cars 2 does have certain stretches that are more fun to watch than The Good Dinosaur, like aspects of the climax and the whole what is
racing
happening. Not even racing outside of that part. I think just really the end with, I know I made you feel that way before.
The opening scene.
And the opening scene, yeah. Some stuff with the Finn McMissile, yeah. Like, that'll be, like, the, like, fun adrenaline rush. But, like, just overall, like, The Good Dinosaur, it felt like it was over and out faster. It was shorter.
Which is good because I wanted it to be
I wanted it to be there, yeah. and Brave, I've already said how, like, you know... very like the main character makes quite problematic choices, and it's flaunting how we talked about with the whole thing with the transformation into bears. It's like, oh yeah, this is so the right choice. Of course this is what we're doing. Look at that. And like it's, you know, it's supposed to then be like this very empowering tale, and Merida doesn't really end up getting to show her worth in any case, whereas Arlo, as annoying as he is, he does still like face his fear, and even if this isn't a character that you really were rooting for all that much, he does like,
he does the thing.
He does the thing. He does do the thing.
He goes home.
Whereas Merida doesn't even do the thing at all. Eleanor just fights, and she spoon feeds Merida part of a speech, and she gets what she wants, and then that's it. And so ends the chapter in the life of Merida. Whereas Arlo, he loses his dad, he loses his best friend, but he comes through a better dinosaur. One might even say a good dinosaur.
I'm sorry. Okay. Can we be done with this movie?
All right.
Put it to bed. I probably will never... I don't think I will ever see this movie again after us. Like I think this is the last time I ever even say the phrase The Good Dinosaur.
Yeah. I can't say... It's probably more likely that I would see Cars 2 again.
Yeah.
Because
it's like, what?
That's a meme. It's a meme. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, all right. Well, thanks, guys, so much for listening to our discussion on The Good Dinosaur. Tune in next time for... Tune in, because I know you're all listening on your ham radios. So make sure you tune in to talk about Pixar's 17th theatrically released film,
The Finding Dory.
Goodbye.
Bye.